Thanks for coming. I want to make a few comments, if that's all right, and then answer any questions you might have. Since our last game, there's been significant developments, or several developments, several developments as far as our program. First, we had a little staff transition. I think this is the first time really I've had a chance because we've been on the road. But we lost two coaches, Everett and Mike Rabel. And we replaced them with Larry Johnson and Chris Ash. But just a couple comments about those gentlemen we hired. First of all, they wanted to be here. They both had very, very good jobs, and they wanted to be here. So Larry, obviously, Mike Rabel, I think it's a great opportunity to say Mike Rabel did a great job for us. He was an excellent recruiter. That hurts me that he left, but I know, and it was all positive. But he's a Buckeye and really did a great job for us recruiting. A dynamic personality, and that went into when I was putting together to replace him. You can't lose a dynamic personality, energy guy, and not replace him, where you're just not going to have that in your program. And so we hired Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson is a guy that I've had great respect for many years. I actually made a phone call to him 2 years ago when I was first hired here in December of whatever year that was. I called Larry, we discussed Ohio State, but then I made the decision to hire Mike Rabel as our D-line coach, so we just didn't have a spot. And then this year, actually Noah Spencer's dad called me and said, you know, Larry would like to talk to you about a position. This is right after Mike took this position. And the communication was great. We went and met in Indianapolis at the convention. It was a no-brainer on our end, and Gene Smith approved as well. So he's been everything that I thought he would be, spending time with him on the road. Had an impact as far as recruiting already. And then Chris Ash is charged with, he's got a serious responsibility. That's to improve our pass defense. He'll be in charge of the entire back end of our defense. He's going to coach safeties, coach cones, and continue to coach corners. However, we're going to have one voice back there, and that's his responsibility to improve our pass defense. And obviously it's more than just the secondary, it's linebackers and everything, but you're going to see some significant changes in the way we approach our business back there. I'm going to be more involved than I ever have been, just to make sure that we get up to standard in Ohio State on the defensive side of the ball, with emphasis in pass defense. Player transition. We just had a group of seniors depart Ohio State that came from losing 7 games 2 years ago to winning 24 straight. Obviously a couple bumps at the end, but a group of players I have a lot of respect for. I love those guys. Those guys came in and they let us attack their hearts and let us coach them, and they're gone. So whenever you lose a group of players, you have to replace them. And I like our last year's recruiting class, and I really like this year's as well. We signed 23 players. Emphasis is on linebacker. Just going to give you a quick analysis of our roster and where I think the strengths, there's some obvious strengths and weaknesses, but the linebacker position is one that's, we're going through an overhaul right now, and that's far too many mistakes have been made, either lack of development or whatever. It's just not where we need to be. And so there's 4 linebackers who've been recruited: Raekwon McMillan, Sam Hubbard, Kyle Berger, and Dante Booker. And those are all 4 guys that put pressure on them, on Coach Fickle, and on myself to get them ready to play next year. They have to play for us, in addition to the players we have on our roster already. So just so everybody knows, there's no redshirt plans for those players at all. We thought about that during the recruiting process. We want mature players. One thing that's common about all 4 of those guys are from very good high school programs. State champion down at back-to-back state champion down at Muller. You have state champion as well at St. Vincent, St. Mary, and then Raekwon comes from a great high school program down in Georgia. So we're counting on, and obviously Raekwon's on campus right now. Defensive backfield's another area that's we're going through an overhaul right now, and that's how do you do that? You do it with the way we teach, the way we do things back there, but also with some personnel. And very pleased with our recruiting of defensive backs. So Damon Webb's a guy that once again, unless something happens, they're playing. There's no red shirt for these players I'm getting ready to discuss. Damon Webb, I anticipate he'll be in the depth next year, and Marshawn Lattimore from Cleveland Glenville is going to be in the mix as well. And then Eric Smith, he's a guy that I'm really, really excited to get here. He played corner in the All-Star game, but we plan on putting him at safety. And once again, we're immediately in the depth. Malik Hooker is a guy that only played 2 years of football, but I went and watched him play basketball. He certainly has the athleticism and size. It's just experience. So he might take a little bit longer, but that's an area, obviously, that we need to improve. That's the defensive backfield. Offensive line is an area that performed very well for us a year ago, but 4 players have left. And we're planning on moving Taylor Decker to left tackle. And right now, Darrell Baldwin is penciled in at right tackle. And then we signed 5 offensive linemen. Of the 5, the 2 that I see the maturity, that Jamarco Jones and Demetrius Knox are guys that I would like to see. Typically, you don't put freshmen in there early, but these guys got mature bodies and they're fairly mature young men. And then you got Marcellus Jones, Kyle Trout, and Brady Taylor, the young man here from Columbus. The really impressive guy, kind of late comer. That he's up to 295 pounds now, and a wonderful family, tough guy. I love the guy. I'm really excited. He might be a guy that sneaks in that depth fairly quickly as well. So I'll answer any questions for you.
Front row, Bill.
Urban, 2 questions. One, the Darius Slade thing came out kind of nowhere. Can you kind of explain how that happened?
Yeah, Darius Slade, I really didn't even know much about who he was. That's Larry Johnson contact from years. I guess they've known each other for years and years. Jared Odrick, who Larry Johnson coached at Penn State. I think there's a nephew or something. I think Larry would be a good guy to talk to. I watched film on him, and do we want to take this kid? I'm thinking, sure. I really don't know much about him. Larry Johnson is.
And the other question is, we know that Chris Ash is in charge of the secondary and he's the co-defensive coordinator. Who has the ultimate final say in defensive calls, and how's that going to work?
Oh, we're going to have those conversations right now. Luke will. I mean, who has the ultimate say on? How do I say this? On offensive, some people say you need one coordinator, and there's certainly one way to go about it. Who has the ultimate say on offense? If someone said Tom Herman, I might raise my hand and say I'm not quite sure that's correct at certain times. So it's Ed Warner at times does. I do. So, and so once again, some people might disagree with that. So Luke Pickles, the defense coordinator, the co-coordinator, when it's third down or when there's some type of pass, I want a real strong back-end presence, and that's what we got.
Back left, Rob.
Urban, what are your 3 keys, maybe philosophically, to recruiting when you have your coaches, when you send them out? Not so much what you're looking for, but how to secure guys. What do you emphasize?
Oh, I think it's a lot like how we approach our business here. It's the relationships. You're going to hear this. It's not like Shelley's always funny whenever she hears Coach Shelley's. Everybody coach does the same things. Blah, 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 what you said. It's relationships, and it is. I mean, Zach Smith was a guy that did just okay his first year here, really first year and a half. He knocked it out of the park this year. He signed Jalen Holmes and Johnny Dixon, and he beat a bunch of high-profile schools in different regions, and that was simply for one reason. The number 1 reason is the Ohio State brand. The brand is so strong. The number 2 reason is a relationship, and I see that when I walk in Jalen Holmes' house, and he's on Facebook or that FaceTime, I'm not even sure what it is, but he's sitting there talking to Zach Smith's son, I think it's a 4-year-old son, 5-year-old kid, for 5 or 10 minutes. I knew we were in pretty good shape. He has a great relationship with Zach's son. And so I usually can walk in because I'm kind of the closer. I can walk, they set the groundwork. I kind of know where we're headed when I walk in that home. And the number 1 thing without question is relationships being built.
Follow up real quick. I talked to some of the BG guys from 2002 Bowling Green, your first class. How has it evolved for you in terms of closing or the whole process?
I think it's probably pretty much the same. I'd be interested to talk to those guys as well. But it's pretty much the same. We go after them. We're really honest with them. I think, I made a comment just a minute ago in an interview that, some people don't like kids to go on visits. I think kids should go on visits. Jamarco Jones went on a visit at the 11th hour. I don't know if I appreciate that. I'd much rather go on a visit in July or in September, but I will never tell a kid you can't visit. I'd rather not. And even with Jamarco, I never said you just shouldn't do that. He's very simply said, I want to make sure. And after being a parent, on the parent side of 2 recruiting battles, if someone ever told my kid you can't go visit, that'd be not a pleasant conversation, because those kids deserve to go wherever they want to go to school. And so I think you asked about the approach. It's a very honest, open approach. Come in and see everything we got. This is the way we do our business. It's not for everybody, and if you want to be a part of it, we'd love to have you.
Second row middle, Dave.
What are your thoughts on the scholarship reductions now being behind you, and how much of a limitation was that? It seems like you guys
terrible.
recruited really well. But
It was, we didn't get through it very well. We would have had more safeties, we would have not the special teams issues that we've had over the years. So 9 scholarships was a tough deal. You start doing that with the multiplicity of injuries that you deal with. We had 13 season-ending injuries. So we're anxious to move forward.
Front row, Todd.
Urban, I think you guys have, might be like 2 over come August. How do you plan to be within the
It's not
framework?
2. That's just something we got to manage the roster right now, and who's coming back for the 5th year, those type of things. And then we're dealing with some injury issues right now as well.
Did you guys hear anything on Christian Bryan at all?
Yeah, he's not going back. The appeal was just recently, the second appeal, we appealed it twice. So that's one that's, I was hoping he'd come back.
Front row, Tim.
Yeah, 2 quickies. Urban, number 1, what does it mean to you to have a highly ranked class? Obviously, you've had 3 in a row now, and 2 in the top 2 or 3. It looks like when it all figures out. Why is that important to you?
Well, I mean, I hear people say it's not important. I disagree. I think it's very, as long as you're keeping score, we're going to try to win. I'm disappointed we weren't the #1 recruiting class in the country. Our staff knows we're disappointed about that. Is that the final end all and say, no, it's really, as long as we're going to go keep track of it. And there is a correlation between how teams do when your teams are ranked, your recruiting classes are ranked, but it's certainly not, that's not the final product. You've got to coach and develop them and get them here. So we do, I actually do, we do pay attention to that. And that's not saying that we take a kid who's a 5-star over a 3-star if we believe in a 3-star. That's not it at all. But I'll start watching it at the end of the recruiting class.
And the other thing, it looks like you literally are going to lean on this class. I mean, last year you talked about some guys you thought could come in and play. Some of them didn't pan out. I mean, I don't know how much of a gamble is it, or do you feel like you're gambling a little bit with this class, a little bit from that standpoint of
No, we wanted to
saying
do that
guys are
last
going
year,
to play?
Tim.
Yeah.
We wanted to, we didn't.
Yeah.
Gary Ann Conley should have played last year. That's Gary Ann's fault. It's our fault. It's position coach's fault. If we're going to sit here and blame, we're certainly not blaming it. But,
Yeah.
no, we're counting on these guys to go play. What you don't want to do is and I got to really watch how I present this to our staff. I don't want to have a young man come in and play 12 snaps and lose a year. We're going to play him, but you have to get him ready to go. And the young man has to attack it as he has to go. Joey Bose is a perfect example. Came in and he's playing from day 1.
But
You do that.
yeah, but is that what you're talking about? These guys have played competition. It tells you they can step up.
Well, I thought last year,
You know,
Massillon, Ohio was pretty good.
yeah.
That young man should have came in and played. We should have had him ready. And he's got the ability left. And I know I'm not picking on Gary, because Gary's doing 5 plays. He's doing fantastic for us right now. So we're gonna, if it's the way it turns out, we'll redshirt very minimal out of this class.
Front row, right, Austin.
Urban, last year at this time, you seemed pretty disappointed with the class you put together on the offensive line. Only one of them showed up. You lose the 4 good seniors. Did you have to double down your emphasis on getting guys up front in this class specifically?
100% last year. Billy Price.
Gardner, but he didn't make it.
Who's the other one?
Yeah, it was just the 2.
Evan Lyle.
No, Evan Lyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year was a disappointment in the offensive line. Billy Price, we moved Billy's over now. He's going to play on offense and he looks fan. He's gonna, I think he'll, if not start, be right in depth. Devin Lyle's really coming on as well. Kyle Dotson, this time ready to show him as we're playing. Taylor Decker, obviously, he is starting for us. And then we signed 5 this year, so they have to perform. I'd say 2 of the 5 have to be in the depth, and we recruited as such.
Would this be about the amount that you would normally recruit, or was that influenced by last year?
Well, you want 16 linemen in your program. And so obviously, when we moved Billy Price over, then we only needed 5 to fill. I think we're at 16 now.
Far right, Clay.
Similar to Tim's question, how do you quantify what happened today? I mean, do you look at your staff and say, hey, we won some games today? How much is recruiting, how much is development?
Oh, it's 50-50. You know, that's a great question. I think we won today. And I made it clear to our guys. I'm very pleased with their effort today. That was a good class. I think, you know, once again, I think it's a great class. Jamarco Jones, I would have been a fake smile in here today if we didn't get him.
Best class you've had?
I don't know, Clay. We'll see. I don't know. I think it very well could be.
Middle, Jeff.
Best class here or?
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. So we'll see. That's who knows.
I mentioned a couple times on the radio show and then today, earlier, just wanting guys out of winning programs in high school and just kind of the intangibles they bring. Can you kind of expand on that? What exactly do you see out of those
Yeah.
guys?
You look. I bet, and I'm going to do a study. Just we don't have that much time, you know. But the correlation between a young guy playing early and a guy that's comes from a championship level program, that means he understands weightlifting and fundamentals of football and winning and the price it pays and the price it takes to go win a game and win a championship. Those guys usually play early. And you look at Kyle Berger, went to Ignatius, Dante Booker, St. Vincent St. Mary, and Ray Quan from a great program. Those are the guys we're looking for. Sam Hubbard. Those are the guys you look for.
Far left, Matt.
You always talk about wanting to have speed in this class. Where does that come from? Are you feeling pretty good?
We're getting close. You know, we're getting, Curtis Samuel's already on campus. We got right now Ezekiel Elliott, Curtis Samuel, and Dontre Wilson are kind of those prototype guys, or the hybrid type players we're looking for. Although really Ezekiel's more a pure tailback. But this Curtis Samuel guy is he's electric fast to go with Dontre. So we need a couple more. That's Paris Campbell's another guy, should be one of the fastest kids in the state of Ohio. He's a 10,500 meter guy. So we're trying to obviously get our speed up overall as the offensive skill, but we certainly have. From where it was 2 years ago to where it is now, much different.
Follow up also, I want to ask, did you ever have anything where the coach go through what Tom Herman did?
Tom Herman, that really didn't happen. It was only a 4-hour delay, and Tom likes to blow things up. It's a fishtail, it gets bigger and bigger. No, it was 19 hours. And I told him, he'll tell the story, I think. Is he going to be able to talk to him? He got, I get a phone call in the morning, and there's Mark Pantoni, our recruiting guy, is just nervous. And, I can't get a hold of Gene Smith, and should he leave the car? What if he leaves the car? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said 19 hours without food or water, and he's very delirious right now. And I said, Tom's always delirious. So I called him up and I said, get a G2, which is a Gatorade, and those protein bars that get to work. We have to go close Demetrius Knox in Dallas. And that's what he did. So I've never had, obviously being funny, but I've never had a guy go through that. 19 hours in a car stuck in traffic. So.
Middle, Ari.
Hey, Coach, going back to the last 2 quarterbacks, Braxton is right now, and Terrell were really highly rated guys in the recruiting process. Steven was kind of a guy that you handpicked. You analyzed him yourself at camps. What did you see with him that made you, confident in making him the quarterback in this class, and what is it about him, and maybe handing the keys over to the program in 2 years to him?
Yeah, he's a development guy a little bit. He's a guy that came in, incredible character guy, great size. He's here on campus already. A very nice release. He's got to grow into the position. He's not like you said, the Terrell or the Braxton, but Alex Smith wasn't either. So we saw a lot of attributes to him that we thought would turn into a very good player for us. So that's what we did.
Is it kind of nice when you can get them into camp and just watch them and see, I mean, is that?
You have to a quarterback, and we a couple of kids even in state wouldn't come to, it's almost like a rule, we need to see you throw a football to take you. And nowadays, kids are committing so early, and sometimes don't get that opportunity, so we've had to adjust our philosophy a little bit, because that was a rule. I mean, when we recruited Tim Tebow in Florida, I mean, are you gonna offer? Yeah, we're gonna offer, but I need to see you at camp. Well, I'm not coming to camp, well, I'm not gonna offer you. And you get in those kind of conversations, and recruiting has moved up so far now, and sometimes we're gonna have to adjust. We're offering quarterbacks now that I don't see throw, and I've never done that before in our career. But you have to, because the early offers are out. There's already kids offered right now for next year, which at that position, you'd like to have them on camp, in camp.
Last two questions. Lori?
Coach, you talk about the principle of alignment, and you introduced 2 new coaches today. How much of that has to be present at the start, and how much is that something you can work on?
Well, I think what you said, alignment.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
a
word
great
you
question.
use.
That's the essence of what we do, and the essence of any successful organization is alignment. And to bring in, to bring in new people. The hardest thing when I was at Bowling Green, it was much easier to hire these young coaches and really just their bobbleheads. You tell them what to do when they do it. Where here you're going to hire Larry Johnson, 18 years at Penn State. He's kind of set in his ways, and Chris Ash is one of the more successful. When he was at Wisconsin, one of the best defensive coordinators, and one of those young up and coming guys that have great statistics. But we have those conversations. We're very transparent, very direct when I talk to them. This is the way we do things. But the nice thing is our staff likes to learn from them as well. We spent probably 2 hours of our meeting today in discussion about what they've done at Penn State and when they were in Wisconsin in recruiting. And so we're always learning from them. But at the end of the day, they're 2 very selfless people that was made very clear that there's a certain way we're going to do it. And the good thing is they came from programs that are very similar to the way we do it. We follow the rules and do things the right way. Premium placed on academics, and we call power of the unit. That's the kind of the way they were raised in the coaching profession.
Does the principle, just to follow up, does that principle apply to players as well? And if so, how do you ensure that throughout?
You can't ensure that. They're 18 years old, and you're relying on high school coaches' recommendations. And to answer your question, certainly it is expected in recruiting as well. It's much more difficult, just who you're dealing with.
Doug, last question.
Urban, you talked about wanting to win on a day like this. You guys just played Michigan State on the field in the Big Ten title game. Is it magnified at all when you're competing against teams like that for guys? I mean, obviously you went, Jamarco and Darius Slade were guys involved with both schools. Is that magnified at all, that competition?
Well, I think that the school you just mentioned is they're real, and I think they've always have been real. But I think we're nose to nose with them quite often. That's your question. I've got a lot of respect for the way they do their business, and that's an adversary. That's one of our teams we're nose to nose with right now in recruiting, and we don't win them all. So we lost a couple too. But that's a real battle right now.
And you talked about the changes you're making on defense with having 2 new coaches in. You had 2 coaches leave. Did you think you needed new voices, that you needed to make staff changes?
I think so. I have a lot of confidence in the coaches who are here, and obviously we didn't perform up to standard. We won a lot of games. There were some holes. Very easy to blame players or blame coaches. It's just overall we need to freshen up our defense, and that's what's going to get ready to take place here in the next few months.
And just sorry for the last one. We haven't talked about Braxton at all. Were you ever worried did you ever think it was a real possibility that he would leave for the NFL?
Yeah, sure.
And what was the discussion like that he wound up coming back for his senior year?
It wasn't very long. Braxton and his father, who's doing much better, by the way. He had some health issues he was dealing with. But Braxton and I have a very good relationship, and we waited till after the game, and I told him my opinion that he could become a very high draft pick if he continues to improve. And he said that's what I thought. It wasn't much more than that. And then we met together as a family and had a very positive conversation, and they made a decision. Never one time they said, what should I do? Because I wouldn't tell them that. That's their business. But I gave my opinion as far as how much more you can grow as a quarterback. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, sir.